like to call the meeting to order and invite Lorraine to welcome everybody to the chamber.
Tēnā koutou e huhu mana I tēnei rā, kei te mihi atu ki a koutou. Nau mai hara mai ngā manuhiri, I rungi I te kaupapa o te rānei. Nau mai hoki mai te whānau o Tāmaki Nui Ārua, Oriana, me Cheryl, and mō tō koutou kaimahi o te rungo o te kaupapa o te rānei. Mihi nui, Stacey, Mahalia, nau mai hoki mai. Tēnā koutou katoa.
I'd just like to remind everybody that this meeting is being recorded, as are all our meetings now, and those recordings are available on our website. I'll call for any apologies, please. There being none, I'll move on. Is there anybody from Public Forum in attendance? No, you're all presenters, you're not Public Forum, so. Oh, did you want to speak? Okay, thank you. Do we have any notifications of items not already on the agenda? There being none, we're making up the lost time here quite well. And conflicts of interest from those around the table, please. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Your representation.
Thank you. There's Paul Tihoki, thank you. Okay, so the confirmation of the minutes of the last meeting, we'll take them as read and we'll just go through page by page, please. So page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, sorry.
Sorry, back to page 8. Woodville Women's Institute, the CityNet Fountain Square. We got an update on that? Does anyone? Because that was meant to go back to Woodville, positively Woodville.
Councillor Johns.
Thank you, Chair Ellison. It was brought up at the last Positively Woodville meeting, and there was agreement by Positively Woodville for such a structure, but in accordance with Council's view that it tie in with the Van Rotunda, its design and construction.
Thank you, Councillor Johns. And so page 10. Would somebody please move that those minutes be accepted as a true and correct record? Thank you, Councillor Wards. Thank you, Naima. Right, so we'll move on now to, oh, sorry, all those in favour? Thank you, carried. So now we proceed to the next item on the agenda. I can find the page. So we're now going to start with the presentations, and the first presentation this afternoon is a smoke-free, vape-free policy presentation, and I'd like to call forward to the table, please, Julie Beckett and Josie Guthrie. Thank you.
Thank you, Wha Lorraine, for opening and our blessing for the hui. And thank you for the opportunity to be here with you today. I'd like to mihi to the mana whenua, ko te mihi tuatahi, nā mana whenua, rangitani ki Tāmaki Nui Ārua, rawa ko Ngāti Kahungunu Tina, he mihi aroha. Nā reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. My name is Julie Beckett. I work for National Public Health Services Te Whatu Ora, Te Pai Hauora Orohine o Tararo Mid Central.
Kia ora koutou, ko Josephine Toka Ingoa, Kia Cancer Society, aho I mahi ana. Again, thank you for having us to speak today.
We represent.
Could I just ask you to pull your microphone a little closer, please? Thank you. Now you'll push the button to speak.
Is that okay? We represent just two organisations that have been part of the journey towards a smoke-free Aotearoa 2025. There have been many passionate people who have come before us and have laid the way for us to achieve a smoke-free future for our rangatahi and mokopuna, including Dame Tariana Turia, Chrissy Karina, who has done a lot of work in the smoke-free arena, and Fire Sue Taylor. We acknowledge and thank them for their tireless work.
On December 9th last year, Associate Minister of Health Dr. Aisha Vural launched the New Zealand Government's action plan to achieve its smoke-free 2025 goal. It was the vision to significantly reduce the harm of smoked tobacco products that cause the harm in our communities. She stated, smoking is still the leading cause of preventable death in New Zealand and causes 1 in 4 cancers. Smoking-related harm is particularly prevalent in our Māori, Pacific and low-income communities. So why are we doing this? Our tamariki are our future. We want a world where they will grow healthy, strong, safe and secure, where smoking and vaping is not seen as normal behaviour, where they can breathe clean air. We have families, teachers, even kids coming to us currently, pleading for help with these addictions that have been normalised in our communities. Communities are feeling powerless against the multiple corporations that are shoving tobacco and vaping products in our faces. We hold in our hearts those who have died too soon. Remember our elders, our mothers, our fathers, whose lives have been cut short by the insidious hold that smoking has on our communities. So the Smoke-Free Aotearoa 2025 action plan proposes these 6 actions are seen on your screen to ensure Māori leadership and decision-making at all levels, to create a smoke-free generation where our future tamariki will never be able to purchase tobacco, to reduce nicotine levels, reducing availability, providing more support and funding towards stop smoking services, and a compliance of retailers and monitoring / regulating illicit trade. It's about making it easier for those that wish to give up making it easier for those that wish to give up and preventing our future generation being exposed to one of the most addictive products in our society. Currently, Te Ararua district smoking stacks are ranging above the national average for New Zealand, with 19.7% of adults in the district being regular tobacco cigarette smokers as of the 2018 census, while the average of New Zealand was at 13.2%. Māori and Pacific are almost double that statistic, with 35.3% of Māori adults being regular smokers. That's 7% more than the national average. Than the national average of Māori in the country, while 23.9% of Pacifica adults in the district smoke on a regular basis, down from 30.2% in 2013. What's more concerning is when the statistics are looked at by age. 68% of the district's population between the ages of 30 and 64 were smoking. Whereas in 2021/22, 1 in 12 people aged 15 or older, that's 8.3%, were daily vapers. This is a large increase from the 2019/20 statistics, where 1 in 30 people, 3.5%, were daily vapers. From this, 15.1% of daily vapers were Māori and 12.7% were Pacifica. That's double the proportion of daily vapers compared to European and other ethnicities. The largest proportion of daily vapers are the 18 to 24 age group and the 25 to 34 age group, 19.1% and 10.6% respectively. These are the age groups having children and the people our rangatahi looking up to for guidance and as role models. Setting this example for our rangatahe is just setting them up to grow these statistics. Currently, there are no health pathways to support people to quit vaping unless they were already recent smokers and using vapes to quit smoking. This does not apply to rangatahe, as most of them weren't smokers. We had one of the lowest rangatahe smoking rates in the world, and now they make up 6.9% of daily vapers, with 5.3% never having smoked before. We commend the Council for developing a smoke-free policy back in 2008, and we see our proposal as an extension of this existing policy. Almost all surrounding districts and regions, as you can see on the map, have a policy towards smoking and vaping, and almost all support and are committed to the government's action plan of Smoke-Free 2025. Palmerston North City Council, for example, their smoke-free and vape-free policy is currently one of the strongest and detailed policies within the mid-central region. It upholds their long-term plan outcomes and provides details into how they administer and their policy points, such as using education and positive action to promote policy outcomes and creating and utilising a smoke-free reference group, which collaborates with us and with Te Whatu Ora to ensure policy is adhered to. It also refers to the Health Act of 1956, stating that it is the duty of every council to improve, promote, and protect health. Manawatu District Council has very similar outcomes and goals, very shorter policy, much easier to adapt to, referencing their long-term outcomes and using signage and education rather than an enforcement approach.
So you may have heard recently there's been tobacco legislation changes, and these are around the goal of smoke-free Aotearoa by 2025. So one of the changes is called a smoke-free generation, where tamariki born after 1st of January 2009 will never legally be able to buy tobacco in our country, reducing the number of retailers from approximately 8,000 at the moment to 599. And just note, there's 2 outlets planned for the Tararua region, one in Dannevirke and one in Pahiatua. There's also rules around tobacco retailer. Sorry, I have a lisp in my voice. Retailer proximity to sensitive areas like kura, kohanga marae. And also reducing nicotine content in tobacco down from 15 to 16 milligrams to 0.8 milligrams by 1st of April 2025. So at the moment, you may all be aware that tobacco retailers, there's no licensing for them. This is actually happening right now as we speak. There's applications open up to reduce those number of retailers down to just under 600. And what happens is the retailers have to apply to the Ministry of Health, and then they will go through an algorithm, make sure the applications fits all the criteria, and then they'll come to us, because I work in regulation as well, smoke-free officer. And then we go out and we do verification process with those retailers. And from there, they get sorted whether they are accepted or declined. So this is a big difference compared to when, there were no licenses and any person could set up a shop and sell tobacco, which is still killing our people. Other sensitive areas, childhood centres, kohanga, registered schools, they also fit into the proximity. So there's also been vape legislation and regulation changes. So firstly, we carried out a controlled purchase operation last week here in the Tararua district. And what happens is we take an underage volunteer and they go into a retailer and see if they can purchase vapes. And we had no sales here in the Tararua district, which is really great. We had one on the way home, unfortunately, but we had none in the Tararua. And it was really interesting because while we were here, we met with the police, because the police contacted us and asked, what we do and what's involved in it. So we met with them, and they're very concerned too about what's happening with our youth being sold vapes. And that's just one of the things where the youth get vapes from, but it's still a happening thing. So we talked with the police, and we're sort of going to be, there's a person in the police, like an education person. I can't think what they're called, community police or something. And they're very keen to engage with us further around any sort of presentations we may do about updating legislation and regulation. So we're really keen to be involved in that. Back to the legislation changes, no new specialist vape retailers allowed to be set up within 300 metres of a school or marae. That is from 21st of September, which is only a couple of weeks ago. That came into effect. All single-use vapes will now be 20 milligram of nicotine strength. Some of them were up to 50, and that will be a staggered time frame. So we could send out, if you're interested to know more, we can send out the timeline of that from the ministry if you're keen. And in there will be a lower level of nicotine content in salts in disposable vapes, down to 28.5 milligram. They were 50 as well. And just touching on that CPO, the control purchase operations we monitor all the vape retailers, both the general vape retailers, which are your local dairy, garage, supermarket. They sell 3 flavours of vapes, mint, tobacco, and menthol. And we also monitor the specialist vape retailers, which is one down on the main road here, Highway Vapes. They're a specialist. So it's a little shop that has all the flavours, just heaps of flavours. But the new rules that have come in have changed what those flavours can be, and they've sort of made them a bit plainer. But yeah.
So our recommendations, it's an updated policy from your 2008 policy. Just to think about it, I was 11 years old when that was made, so I think it needs a little bit of updating. It is recommended to apply to all council-owned workplaces in Tararua. An updating of the smoke-free vape-free policy, Tararua District Council would be joining at least 60 other councils that have a policy in place. A new version of the policy provides an opportunity to reduce smoke and vape-related harm within communities in the district. We acknowledge that this policy can give effect to council's purpose to promote the wellbeing of communities as per the Health Act of 1956, the Local Government Act of 2002, and the Smoke-Free Environments and Regulated Products Act of 1990. That one. No, not that one. Oh, it's gone. Okay, well, there was another slide there. We recommend the following policies. I have it in here. I'm really sorry. Here it is. Oh, maybe it is. Okay, I'm really sorry. The following places be within the smoke-free and vape-free policy that are on your screen. These are the highlighted main areas that that should be effect in your smoke-free, vape-free policy, and we can go over that with you as well if you're needing assistance. We are doing this for our communities. Someone near and dear to my heart is currently battling with their 12-year-old who has been supplied vapes by another mother. There is no support for this age group. It is a great area that support services cannot help. Addiction at this age is not studied or researched. So how are we just supposed to support these people? Losing their children to a substance that can be regulated, but is done so poorly. A smoke-free and vape-free policy provides a supportive environment of health and well-being. It reduces fire risk within your communities. It reduces cleaning and maintenance costs for your communities. It also provides a positive role modelling for tamariki. It grows healthy leaders for the next generation, and it creates a healthy whānau-friendly environment within your district. It protects non-smokers from secondhand smoke and encourages smoking cessation among whānau and wider Māori communities. Yeah. So what can we offer you? Te Whatu Ora and Cancer Society can help to develop and support the smoke-free and vape-free outdoor policy. We can provide workshops on current legislation and regulation, as Julie has already mentioned, and we can provide support as an advisory member on the smoke-free policy implementation team. We can also help with assisting of evaluation within your district and keep Tararua District Council updated on current research in tobacco control. We can also promote policy through our communication channels and also give advice and examples of smoke-free signage for your communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies. That was very eye-opening. I think for me, 60 out of 67 councils is pretty remarkable. So we need to make it 61 out of 67. Having just been recently in Singapore, seeing the excellent example that they set of their basic policies about smoking in public places, it's almost a prisonable offence nowadays. So thank you very much. Are there any questions from anybody, please? I thought Mr. Johns might have a question. Councillor Long.
Through you, Chair. The rate of smoking has decreased in New Zealand over a number of years. Is that having an impact on the rate of cancer?
I can't comment on the exact number because I don't have it in front of my eyes, unfortunately. But I can say that smoking isn't the only cause of cancer. So cancer is obviously increasing in other areas, although smoking is one of the largest contributors to lung cancer, and that is a very high prevalence in New Zealand itself.
Councillor Wards.
Thank you, Chair Nelson. Thank you very much for that. Rather enlightening. A couple of questions, mainly to do with A, education, and B, there was a slide where you reflected on two spots in Danny Verrick and Paeatua. Is that taking away ones that are currently there or preventing two more that potentially are about to set up the shops, I think was the...
Thank you. That was about tobacco retailers.
Yeah.
So it's not adding new ones. It's the existing ones applying to be a registered tobacco retailer.
Right.
So there'll be two outlets. There's two spaces for retailers, or the others won't be able to sell.
The other one, I mean, I think there's a huge opportunity in education to be able to try to address. I'm just overwhelmed that that something that was supposed to prevent and aid smoking is now have a following of its own. So it's probably a question through you, Chair Ellison, to maybe our health providers that are in the room is what challenges has this trend, what challenges is given for our tone team? I guess
I can talk to that a little bit. So not like Josie said, no services are actually funded to support rangatahi who are only vaping to quit.
right.
Yeah. There's Tome can support people who are swapped from smoking to vaping
Okay.
and were recent smokers. They can help them to quit, but there's no one in the country can help our rangatahi, and it's terrible. It's a really bad situation for a lot of whānau. We've been getting referrals and we work on a population health base. We can't do anything. But what has been occurring is a lot of services that work with youth in general. They're starting to focus they work with them around addictions, so that they're highlighting vaping as, part of that conversation or that counselling. But there's a lack of resources in that area as well. So one thing that we're doing in a couple of weeks' time, a group of us are going from Te Whatuora Mid-Central up to Hastings for some training in Tūturu, which is, which is a training for schools on how to cope with addictions with kids that are experiencing addictions, and they're raising vaping, to highlight vaping in that discussion as well, in that training. So we just don't know what else to do because, you know, we can't refer them to stop smoking services. Funded to do it. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Just a quick question. If we've got the example of now the Gambling Association or whatever runs gambling in New Zealand has got the sinking lid policy for pokie machines, could that not apply in terms of vape stores? If one shuts, you can't open another one?
Talk on that too much. It's more of Julie's that she's having a bit of brain fog at the moment. That would be something to look into, I think. I don't know if the new regulations or legislation comments on that at all, but it would definitely be something to look into because, yeah, that would be wonderful if that happened. Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? There being none, thank you both very much for taking the time to travel over from Palmerston North to present to us this afternoon. It was really enlightening to see the statistics and the comparison to the last time we had a presentation. So thank you very much for your time and drive safely. So we'll move on now, please, to the next presentation, which is the summer holiday swimming proposal for Pahiatua. And I'd like to call to the table, please, Louise Powick, who's representing both Explore Pahiatua and the Bush Aquatic Trust, Caroline Donald and Stan Walland, who both represent the Pahiatua Swimming Baths Committee. Everyone knows.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to come and present to you again this afternoon around swimming in Pahiatua. So just leading on from last time that we spoke to you, which was the long-term plan proposal, as you know, the Bush Aquatic Trust are raising funds for a $6 million facility in Pahiatua. We estimate that we can raise about $4 million worth of funds, and we've asked the council to commit $2 million worth of funds in the long-term plan in year one to start this project, and so that we can continue to fundraise. Where do I point this? Up there. This is what we're fundraising for. A sprung structure swimming pool, and this is what we've currently got. And just to note, since this photo was taken, I know there's been some rain in the last week or so, but the level of the swimming pool actually dropped right down to where the cone was. And as you know, there's a considerable maintenance cost that is required to get this pool operational again for the summer months, and Pahiatua is potentially looking at a compromised or shortened swimming season. So the current level of service that council provides for Pahiatua includes, this is what it looks like. There's learn to swim through term 1, the school term for the local primary schools, which includes Pahiatua School and St Anthony's School. They have they use the pool every day that they can of the week. It is weather dependent, but most days they do get to swim in the pool, and the pool is used from 9 a.m. till 2:30 a.m.
3 p.m.
3 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah. So as well as the Learn to Swim, which, as you're aware, is part of the curriculum, the public use the swimming pool through the holiday period in the afternoons from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. through January. Once school goes back, that changes to after school, and then in the weekends it's still open for the afternoons. So the first option for the council to consider is to spend some money and fix up the seasonal pool. So there was a report done in November last year that itemised the maintenance that was required for both the Learn to Swim pool and the six lane 25 metre pool. It didn't actually include any repairs to the leaks in the pool. So Carolyn might want to speak to that a little bit more, but the report, which was over $80,000, that doesn't include actually addressing where all the water is going to. And I know that through the season, Carolyn has to almost constantly have the taps on to keep filling the pool. So there would be a need to have another look at that report, and I know that Jessie is working with Carolyn and Stan from the Pahitua Swimming Baths Committee to invite the writer of that report to visit the pool, to review the priorities and to have a look at the cracks and any repairs that would be associated with trying to stem the leak. So the outcome of that, if that was to be carried out, would be a full swimming season as per usual, no disruption, and that would meet the level of service and the long-term plan of 10 weeks, at least 10 weeks of swimming for the Pahitua community. If there's not an appetite for that, another option for our community is to look at other pools and facilities that we can use. And I'd like to thank Lorraine in particular for bringing that to everybody's attention when we presented on the long-term plan. So we've gone away and talked to a few people in our community, including Ian Anderson, who is the principal of Tararua College, and David Jackson, who is the principal of Pahitua Primary School, to see what appetite there would be to other options for their schools and in particular for Learn to Swim. So Tararua College are open to working with the primary schools for Learn to Swim through term 1. The issue with that is that there is no children's pool. It is only a 6-lane, 25-metre pool. So it would only be students that are competent swimmers, potentially years 8 and above, that could use the college pool for Learn to Swim. Therefore, there would still be a need to operate the Learn to Swim school at the community pool.
Can I just add to that?
Yep.
The college pool, I believe, is 1,200 at the shallow end, whereas the community pool, current pool, is 1 metre. So some of the kids that the 2 primary schools are using are putting into the big pool, and the shallow end of the big pool at the moment actually wouldn't be able to swim down at the college. So they're going to have to put more kids into the Learn to Swim pool as well. So that's a bit of a shuffle for them as well.
Tararua College would be happy to let the public swim after school for a couple of hours. So if it was open during the day to the primary schools, they'd be happy for it to stay open until about 5 o'clock, which is when the staff are still at school at the college. It would be for probably 3 days of the week, Monday, Wednesday and Friday, because on Tuesday and Thursday, the Pahitua Swimming Club use the college pool for their own swimming instruction. The other negative, well, the other challenge with this option is that it doesn't address the public swimming, the holiday swimming through the months of January, or swimming in the weekend for the public. The board doesn't have an appetite to have public coming into the school grounds outside of normal operational hours for the college. The college is looking, the college pool is cold, and that was the first comment from the Pahitua school principal. It is a covered facility, so there's actually no warming from the sun. The water doesn't actually get warm. They do have a reticulation system that does have leaks. It heats the water, it runs through onto the roof through pipes, and so there's heating from the sun off the roof that actually does lift the temperature of the water, but that's not operational at the moment. So they would look to address that, and they would also look to put a cover on the pool to help to raise the level of temperature. It normally sits at around 19 to 20 degrees, and with the information that I have, it could probably get that temperature up to closer to 23 degrees, which would make a significant difference. And that would mean that there would be a good 10 weeks of swimming. So all of term 1 that pool could be used, as opposed to the sort of the 6 to 7 weeks that currently the seasonal pool is used and the college pool, because come mid-March, the temperatures just drop far too low and the pools are far too cold.
Just add to that, because, and they'll need that 10 weeks, right? Because the college also use the pool. So the primary schools and the college are going to have to work together on, like, they're not going to be able to do 9 to 3 for 6 weeks. They're going to have to share it with the PE. So a whole reshuffle for the primary schools to make that work. But both the college and the principal of Pakeatua School have both said that they, if they have to, they'll make it work and they'll work together to do it.
So typically, Pakeatua Primary School swim for 6 to 7 weeks. If they're swimming most days, they will get anywhere between 30 to 14 swimming days in that term 1. If they were to go to the college for 3 days of the week over 10 weeks, they're still going to get that 30 days of swimming instruction that they normally receive. So, as you've heard, the college pool, there's no appetite for that to be open to the community through the summer months. So there would be a need, if the council wanted to or needed to meet that level of service in our community, to find another facility where the public could swim through the holidays and in the weekends. A couple of those options are Mangatainoka School, which is only 5 minutes from Pakeatua. And I have spoken to the principal there, who was open to that suggestion, but would obviously need to go to his board and discuss that further. Woodville Pool, obviously, that's less of a favourable option. It's a lot further away, in reality, and we do have a number of young people that would not be able to find transport to Woodville to swim. But in saying that, they may even struggle to find transport to Mangatainoka School to swim. So while it would offer holiday and weekend swimming, transport would be required to either of those locations to get those young people that turn up to the local pool every day of the holidays or in the weekends or after, well, no, not after school, in the weekends that are not accompanied by their parents and otherwise would not be able to get to a facility if it was not in Pakeatua. If either of these options were to be taken up, the lifeguards from the Pakeatua swimming pool would be supplied to these facilities. So our proposal today is actually that the council would have a look at these options, because we don't have the information to actually present a specific option to you or a recommendation to you. So our proposal is that you would have a look at the options that we've given you today. You would look at the maintenance on the current pool, how much of that needs to be done for the pool for this season, or whether a hybrid arrangement between the Tararua College pool and another pool would work to meet the level of service required for our community. Because obviously there is a cost still involved with using those other facilities. There would be a contribution that would be needed to go towards the Tararua College pool in particular, for the likes of chlorine, potentially some power costs there, and some support also to purchase a pool cover and the reticulation system for the roof, because they would be looking at getting that done to make sure that the whole term could be utilised for swimming by lifting the temperature of the pool. So this needs to be done obviously in conjunction with the Pakeatua Swimming Baths Committee, not Bush Aquatic Trust. I think that's something between the current pool management and council to work through, to look at all the different options. And I think, you know, what needs to be considered, as I've mentioned, is the level of service to Pakeatua and whether that is required to be maintained at the same level as it has been, or whether it can be changed or modified over the next few years while we await a new facility. I'm not sure of the legal requirements or the processes that council may need to look at in respects to that. But obviously, the other thing too to consider is how many years you think the current facility will need to be used in the interim. But I think what it does highlight is that the long-term proposal from the Bush Aquatic Trust to include the new swimming pool in year one of the long-term plan is actually critical, and it is a priority. So I will now just leave that with Carolyn and Stan from the Pātea Swimming Baths Committee if they want to add anything to what I've said.
Louise. So I think it's fair to say from both of like between us, we wear three different hats is how I see it. We're all on the Bush Aquatic Trust and 100% behind the proposal for the new facility and for it to be in the first year of the long-term plan with all of this in mind. And thank Louise really for all the hard work and all the energy that's been poured in with her steaming ahead, and Stan and I've come on board more recently. So our support, Bush Aquatic Trust, you saw that when we presented last month, but still today we wear that same hat. Stan and I are both on the Pahiatua Swimming Baths Committee. Stan for quite some time, I'm not sure if he can remember how long. And brought me in about 10 years ago. We worked together at Carnival Park, so we've worked together in the past. And I guess have a bit of a record of just getting things done, really. And so with that hat of Pahiatua Swimming Baths Committee, with our contract with council and the service delivery that we have been maintaining up until now, ideally having the repairs done and continuing with this facility for the length, the end of the life of this pool is ideal for the community, that they can keep doing what they've been doing all this time until the new one replaces it. And actually would be the easiest option for us because it's familiar. We know the plant, we know the filtration, we know it's got a leak in the pool. I know how to keep the tap on and regulate it, and we know how to keep pouring the chemicals in. Obviously, repairing those leaks so that it doesn't lose any water would be the ideal situation, but we're aware that there's going to be a cost to that. So we're already working with Jessie on that. Her and I've taken some photos again just in the last week, and her and I working with a company in Hawke's Bay for them to come and have give an assessment of what the repairs are going to cost. So they were the ones that did the report on their recommendations to replace ladders and handrails and separate the filtration systems. So they're coming to have a look at the repairs as well, so that at least that can inform council on actually what the cost will be to be able to open the season at the current facility. Yeah, but obviously from Pahiatua Swimming Baths Committee perspective, the easy way forward would be let's get these repairs done and have it at about the last of the pool. Yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
Anything further to add?
I would like to meet Jessica on site. I've got a few ideas, just to, that minor costs to seal the pool, the outlet from the pool. I know it's got a new tap, but it could have a stone in it, could have a piece of wood in it, and it could be leaking. And I would like to seal a rubber mat to the bottom of the pool, just so we can alleviate that altogether, as well as, there are cracks in the pool, and obviously they probably need painting as well, or sealing. But, as you know, this is the worst it's been, probably the 40 years that I've been there, that the water level is just so low. So we haven't seen that happen before. But I think we can address it. We should be addressing it at minimal cost. I know there's suggestions that we need a new handrail, but the handrail that's there has been there for the last 50 years and it's not really rusty. Why would we go down the track of repairing or replacing them if we're only going for another 12 months, 2 years? So keep the cost to a minimum and let's see if we can get through to that 2 years' time. That's me.
Yeah, so the other thing that really needs to be mentioned as well is that the Learn to Swim pool at the seasonal facility is either Paihia Toa School. I'm good to go. Is Paihia Toa School owned or ministry owned? I'm not sure if it's board owned or ministry owned, but it's actually not council owned. So it would be prudent to start the process of talking to Paihia Toa School about the change of operational management of that pool. There will be quite a process to work through. It's I understand it's a handshake agreement from many years ago. Yeah, see the person on the question mark with the headache. Yep, hands on the head. I think it's going to be like that, to be honest. I expect that Paihia Toa School will want it returned to them in a very good state of working order. And yeah, there's going to be quite a lot to work through in that sense. Also to note that the land that pool is on is council-owned land. So there's two titles, but the Learn to Swim is on council-owned land, but it's either ministry or board-owned. And Paihia Toa School have indicated that they want to retain ownership of that and continue to use it for the junior students. Now, I have been on a school board for 6 years, and I frankly don't know how they're going to do it because Sharon's smiling. We know that there's no money in school budgets for swimming pools, and many schools are closing down their pools. So that's what they're saying. I doubt very much that they will actually be able to make that work, but that's something that council should start talking about sooner rather than later. And I think this is a really good time to start doing that.
Yeah, and interesting because I had that conversation with Jessie last week, and I don't think she knew that there was a dual ownership of that. So that was all new to her as well. And so whether there's anything in writing anywhere or any kind of record of exactly who owns what, that could be a bit of fun. But it also talks to one of the options of if the college pool is being used or any of those other pools are being used, that maybe if the big pool is not repaired or can't be, or councillors make whatever decision for this year, that maybe there's a conversation for separating out the filtration systems, which was what the part of the quote was for last year, the 84,000. Part of that was about separating out those filtration systems and maybe separating off that pool. So operationally, we can still open it for the learners, for the little ones. The college pool could be, and maybe we manage the little kids get from 2 till 3 because that's when their mums will come down with them, and the next bigger kids get from 1 till 4, and the big kids get an hour, and then they go the river because actually that's what they do anyway, or they jump the fence and come back later on. But maybe that's part of the mix too, that we look at actually what's the cost of that, so that then if that, then that's at least a facility you can say, well, there it is, you can take back. So that's something. I just wanted to mention too, for me, my third hat's a little different to everybody else, is the manager of the day-to-day stuff. So the plant and the chemicals, the health and safety, not only of pool users, but staff, the hiring and training and managing of the staff and rosters, administration and finances. And so there's a lot of challenges in that, and it's great to have stand support, but actually to be the buck stops with you is a whole different hat and a whole different ball game. I now live out of town in Masterton. I've got grandkids, like having to manage dropping them off and picking them up today, just, to be here. There's a seasonal challenge with that because it's only a short term. So you got to, I've got to work in other jobs doing other things for the rest of the year. So there's a challenge in there, as we all know what seasonal work's like. That also, comes with the seasonal challenges of staffing, and you think you've got great staff that are going to stay for 2 or 3 years, and then, they liked working and having that extra money, so they then get another job and you're starting from scratch. And so when everybody is not available, that's me travelling from Masterton to be there, Johnny on the spot. And so what I've realised in working through all these options is that I'm actually a little bit over it. And when I first came on board, we were talking new pool within 3 to 5 years, and now we're up to year 10. And so, but it's a huge, big thing for somebody else to learn and to take on just for a couple of years. So I've always said I would work out the end of this facility, and I'll still do that. But just that there's extra challenges. So from my personal perspective, all of these options that have been mentioned have their challenges. The easiest for me is let's get this old facility back up and running so that we can just work out the last 2 years with what's familiar. Whatever the council decides, though, we'll make it work, won't we? They will make it work. We'll figure it out. The kids need somewhere to go. Half the time we're babysitters. We know that. So we'll do the best that we can. I think we have to be realistic that the Pahiatua community is going to have to be behind this. And I think they will be if they know that the new facility is coming sooner rather than later, because otherwise I think we'll have trouble with that. I think we'll have some vocal upset people if we're having to make do with a smaller level of service, and it's going to be longer than a couple of years. So I guess for me, please consider putting it in the first year of the long-term plan, because whatever decision gets made, it's going to impact on everybody.
Thank you, Carolyn. I just wanted to add, in light of what was said, that at our asset management plan meeting around swimming pools, we made a decision to do what's called an S17A, which is a deep dive into the asset management plan, and in particular, this sits beautifully in that, and some of the things you've raised today were discussed. I think the best way forward for this now is to ask Adele to bring a paper to our next council meeting in conjunction with Jessie, because there are some pretty serious decisions to be made here. And I really think it was highlighted the last 3 weeks with our problems with our Pahiatua water, that if we've got a leaking pool, we can't afford the water if we're heading into an El Nino summer. So it is actually the perfect storm. And so there's a lot of decisions that need to be made, and I certainly understand your passion and appreciate what you've done, all of you, for the Pahiatua community over a lot of years. So thank you so much for presenting. Now, I think Councillor Johns wanted to say something.
I take it you've had a rough estimate as to what to fix the cracks or the leaks, to put a heavy mastic coating on the pool. Rough idea as to what that's going to cost? Yeah.
Not really. In the past, we've had someone come in and spend about 5,000, I think, on that sort of thing. But we've asked this firm to come through from Hawke's Bay to give us and he's indicated he'll come. He was waiting for my photographs, which I sent through last night. So that'll give us an idea. And then Jessie and I are both copied into that, so she'll have those figures as soon as we get them.
Okay, thank you. Have you told them you want a 2-3 year max? Not a gold-plated thing.
Well, originally he was asked that last year's maintenance report was a 3 to 5 year, because of course we don't know when it's going to be in the long-term plan. So Jessie asked for 3 to 5 year projection. So we're between a rock and a hard place, because we don't know how long that before it's in the long-term plan. Yeah, but he does know short-term.
Thank you, Carolyn. I was just going to add to that that photograph that you saw of the pool was taken before it actually emptied itself completely. And that last part of the process was really quick, which was surprising. So Graham's the groundsman at Pahiatua School, and he monitored it. And that last lot, it just, so yeah, there's a lot of work to do ahead of us.
I had to smile a bit, Louise, when you mentioned one of the options of the community, Pahiatua community, kids being bused or going to Woodville, and that wasn't an option. Yet the Aquatic Trust is very much of the view that Woodville kids will do the reverse.
Very good point.
Like to comment on that?
Always, Peter, always. Yes. I didn't say it wasn't an option. Let's be clear on that. I said the better option would be Mangatainoka School, but yeah, I suppose the thing is how long is the Woodville pool open during the year? And what options are there for Woodville swimmers outside of the seasonal pool use? Yeah, so so the rest of the year that they would have to travel a reasonable distance to get to a swimming pool to use those facilities.
I think we do need to call it. Oh, sorry, we're getting a bit behind time. But again, thank you very much. Oh, Stan, you wanted to have a parting comment?
The council made the decision that the main pool wasn't to open, then there would have to be a security fence put up around the old pool because it'd be too dangerous to have young kids using the learn to swim pool. So that would have to be done.
There's a lot of due diligence that will need to be done around this. It's not a overnight fix, and summer's coming, believe it or not. Hopefully. So thank you guys very much. That was really, really well presented. Thank you very much. Drive safe. Now I'd like to call forward, please, the presentation for the Tara District Locality Plan update. If you ladies would like to come forward, you won't be able to all sit there, but three of you will manage. Welcome, Cheryl.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Tēnā koe I te tuakana Lorraine. Nā mihi nui kia koutou. Ko Cheryl Hoira ahau. Ko Purahaupo Te Waka, ko Ruahine Te Mauna, ko Manawa Tūti Awa. Ko Kaitoki Te Marae, ko Ngāti Pakapaka Te Hapu, ko Rangi Whakaewa Te Tangata. Ko Tai Rawa, ko Queenie Hoira, taku mātua, aku mātua. Kia ora koutou.
Tēnā tātou katoa, kua rohaina aua no kuingoa, he uri a hau no Te Ati Haunui a Paparangi, no Ngā Rauru Kitai hoki, he rua au, he awa au, he rauru au. Pai te kiti ai a koutou, taku nei wai Māori e te noho e mua I ngā rangatira ki taku nei taha. Engari, kia ora, tēnā rā tātou katoa.
Kia koutou. Kia koutou, Paul Te Hoki tōku ingoa. Yeah, well, been in here all morning, so.
I am hoping that you all know about the recent changes in the health reforms that are happening across our motu, and you're all well informed because I know that Oriana had come to talk to you about the changes. So you would all be well aware that we are going into a different phase where it comes to working in hauora for our locality regions. Everybody knows about what a locality is, don't they? Kei te pai, because if you don't, you'll probably miss a lot of this discussion that we're going to have now. Now, for one of my roles, my first and foremost role is I am the Rangitane representative on our Iwi Māori Partnership Board. On my other hat, I am the Director of Locality Service Development for Te Whatu Ora, Te Pai Hauora o Ruahine o Tararua. And so that's with our commissioning locality and community team. And so I have two portai on, but today I'm coming also to represent Te Whatu Ora, and Paul will be here with Oriana talking from our Iwi Māori Partnership Board, giving you a bit of an update. I think first of all, for the mahi that we have been doing around preparing for our localities has been a massive job for our two iwi CEO providers here. You all know these two, don't you? Kei te pai, they don't need to be introducing themselves. All right, so Stacey, Mahalia, Paul and I, as Paul is the representative for Kahungunu for the Iwi Māori Partnership Board, has spent some significant time together looking at how we're going to be working together going forward to agree on how we will work in this locality space. Now, for our community, it's a huge change where we will now have the power to be able to have a say in how our community makes changes for hauora going forward. There's never been a reality for us in any of our regions across the Motu, where it was always coming from top down. And now will be centred on looking at the voice of our whānau, Māori, and from our community. So looking at those concerns that we have in our own rohe, in our own takiwā, and then putting together, working with our partners and putting together a plan on how we want to address hauora for the future. So that just means that we have more of a say here in Tamaki Nui Arua, Tararua, on how we see the future for health and those partnerships that we might want to build. It just also means that we can build together a collaborative relationship to ensure we get what we need here for our region. And we all know hauora here is not looking so bright. We all know that. So this is our opportunity, team, to look at how we make those changes. So today we have brought along our project lead, Arohaina, and she's introduced herself. The significant work that we have been doing behind the scenes, Mahalia and Stacey, Paul and I, is looking at how does this work? How's it going to work for us to be able to make the changes that we really do need? So we as a team have spent some significant time together going through, looking at some strategies that we can all agree on. And we all understand, the current state of how we work here in our region. I'm not going to have to go into that with you. However, we've agreed to come together and to make some changes. So one of those changes is the planning for our locality space and bringing in a project lead who can lead us through the milestones of those changes. So those milestones at the moment, Te Whatu Ora, as I assume you all may know, are going through significant changes. And we have at the moment a lot of roles that have been disestablished and at the moment applying for roles. And that includes the locality space and what that locality might look like going forward. So at national level, we currently are applying for roles. The things have changed so that now decisions will be made nationally, and then we have a regional branch, and then the locality space. So currently, Te Whatu Ora are looking at what those localities might look like, and those roles are being put into place again. So until that happens, we are still planning on So we don't want to be behind the ball. We here in the central region, the mid-central region, have always been pretty proactive, and Ori would be able to speak to that because she's been able to lead a lot of that for us. So we don't sit back and we don't wait to be told what to do. We're very proactive and we see the writing on the wall, and we've started the planning before the national locality rollout. So we have at this stage brought in our locality project lead, who will be working alongside you all. Now, before you present, we'll bring Ori up to give a bit of an update on the Iwi Māori Partnership Board side. However, Arohaina is going to bring you up to date where we're at now. And I think it's really exciting because it's looking at the next stage that we're coming to is looking at those partnerships around the table. And council are very important in that stage. So we will start to look at building those relationships. Ori, if you want to give a bit of an update on the Iwi Māori Partnership Board. To our presentation.
Kia ora, Cheryl. Tēnā mihi kia koutou katoa. Thank you, Chair Ellison, for the invite today. Really briefly, so I chair the Iwi Māori Partnership Board, and our role in terms of locality development is to support each of our locality areas, which are our TLAs, to do the job that they need to do, basically. So one of the things we do in the background is we advocate at a regional and national level. So for example, we tried very hard to push for them to announce the next tranche of localities prior to the house rising. We knew that wasn't going to happen, but we've been told unofficially that the 4 remaining localities in our Wairohe are in that next rollout of 22. So we're hoping that we're still going to be on track to be announced following the election. But what we do know is that locality development is the way to go. And again, Mid Central Health led the way across the country together with Counties Manukau in terms of locality development. So as Cheryl has said, Mid Central's been well ahead in that space. So again, in terms of our Iwi Māori Partnership Board, what is it that we can do behind the scenes to support locality development? As you know, we came not too long ago. Oh, actually, I never made it because I was late. But we've just been to Horowhenua District Council, of which I was on time for, and they were the last district council to present to in terms of meeting Te Aka Whaiora and Te Whatu Ora's legislative responsibility to engage with every council around the country to get agreement to the boundaries. And the question, and rightly so too, is that every council has had is what does that mean for us? Well, one of the things in terms of Iwi Māori Partnership Boards is that we can work with you to advocate for the needs of rural communities. You know, Palmerston North is our only city, and we're pretty vocal about not everything, you know, Palmerston North is not the centre of the universe. And in fact, we've got a lot of issues in every other TLA that surrounds Palmerston North around access to services and affordability. So we are able to work in that way with you in the background. Once we have been announced as the next part of the next tranche, and once you have developed your locality plan, the IMPB is the first approver of that plan, and it then goes to Te Aka Whaiora and Te Whatu Ora for approval. So if we're in the picture as an IMPB and we've got our 2 members working at the centre of this, what it will mean is that it'll be a foregone conclusion by the time it does come to the IMPB, because we would have sorted out any issues or any questions about what that might mean. What the trick is going to be is about the devolution of services out to our areas. That is going to be the tricky part. So the more we can work together on those things prior to that actually happening. But our belief is, regardless of what happens after this election, locality development is where we all should be heading. So thank you again, Chair Ellison, for the invite, and our IMPB door is always open in terms of engaging. And that engagement will primarily be between through Cheryl and Paul and Arohaina as the project lead. Kia ora.
turn myself on. So just following on from that kōrero, so we're aware of the IMPB role and responsibility, that recognition of the locality plan requiring sign off first from IMPB. Before we get to that, obviously there's a need to ensure that we are developing the locality plan that meets the needs and the aspirations of the wānau and the hapori within your takiwā, being Tararua. And so while we are still working through receiving the funding, we just decided that we need to just start this and set us up to ensure that we have success and it's deemed by our wānau and hapori. So please don't think you're going to get a fabulous presentation like you have already from the other providers. This is really just an overview of the project plan and to provide you with the opportunity to ask questions post me flicking through some already discussed kōrero that we've done here. Now I've just got to make sure I get this right. So we've only just started the commencement of the project plan to work towards the locality last month. And that was really around the appointment of a project lead, and we're now working towards the establishment of the governance body. The governance body really is, for this alliance and for this rohe, ensuring that we have representatives of the community and also are really influential in supporting us to deliver on what the aspirations are for this locality plan, which constantly will be going back to community wānau hapori. That is the priority for this locality plan. We're also discussing potentially the need for a stakeholder group in terms of other representatives within the rohe that might not be a part of the governance body. We've got to recognise, like you all do, the need to ensure that we have the time and the commitment for these bodies so that we can continue to deliver, and also recognising the capacity that everybody has across the various kaupapa that we all have. And then moving into across this project structure of stage one is the establishment of a community strategy. The community strategy, again, and it's constant, it's the same kōrero, ensuring that we get that wānau voice when it comes to, sorry, whānau voice, better add my H's back in this little here, so that we can really get that at that stage. But before we even go out to whānau, what we want to do is understand what we've already asked the hapori, the community, the whānau, prior to engaging again, because we recognise the fatigue and the need to get this right, because our locality plan is not going to be successful if we don't have the right information from people within the takiwā. So we want to ensure that we understand through a document review of the last 3 years, what do we already know and what have we already asked? And how do we ensure when we go out to re-engage again that we are asking the right questions to be able to understand those overall aspirations without taking advantage of people's time and also recognising that fatigue. Te Tahi are very supportive in these locality plans and will be helping us in terms of the demographic profile. And then as we continue on the project plan, stage 3 is around provider and stakeholder engagement, mapping out. We've already started this mahi as well in terms of the mapping out the strategic and operational partners. Part of this has been around also understanding the takiwā so that we have the appropriate people on the governance, the representatives on the governance body, but also we need to understand who they are as part of the plan regardless. And then an engagement series. So we've got alliance leads there that could also be through governance representatives, because we need to ensure when we go out to engage that we have got representation across the whole community. So that's what October looks like. It's just started and it's a lot of mahi going on there already. So prepare yourself because this is really, really important. We've got to ensure that we are successful over these first initial months so that we are going to have an absolutely stellar locality plan. Stage 4, community engagement, and I think I've already said it, but I'll just emphasise one more time the importance of our community engagement. Elevating whānau voice and evidence is really going to help us to support the aspirations that we identify through this whānau voice around what it is that are the priorities for this takiwā. I'll just, one more time, I'll just emphasise the importance of that community engagement. It is really pivotal, right? We need to ensure that we have governance and alliances within this group and aligned to our locality plan, because if we don't have whānau voice, we don't have the voice of community, then we're going to be, you know, creating a locality plan that meets the desires of a few people, but not those of our whānau within the rohe. So if we don't do all of this pre-work before we go out to community, then we could potentially be receiving the wrong information that is not going to support us in our plan.
Yeah, I think too, the importance of this is ensuring that we identify those gaps that we have in our community so that we're able to lift those up. Now, all this information, of course, will look towards that procurement of our ongoing contracts and stuff that we have within Hawera. So, so it really is important that we do that. We've also been able to work with some other Hawera groups that are able to tautoko and support, because we're all so busy. Our providers are all strapped and pretty busy in the mahi that they're already doing. But we have groups out there that are willing to come in to help us to collect the voice of our community here in Tararua, should we need that should we need them to come in and support us in doing that. So we're not going to over tire out our people that are already working extensively.
I think one of the other comments is when you have the word locality, it's about what's going to be unique for Tararua, and then not overlapping the data, and that's the key thing with Mahali and Stacey here. That's really services that we really is that once I travel to our services and maybe getting those services from pumps coming here, because it's about getting our whānau, because we need to and so 50 kilometres in our region is not just a straight round 50 kilometres, it's an hour and a quarter, it's an hour and 20, whereas 50 kilometres around the city, you'll be there. So that's one of the things around localities, which means what we need for our services. It's the key thing for us is that we're then working with the information that's getting and the needs of our community.
I might just mention while we're at it that all this discussion started from a hui that we held out at Mākerikiri Marae, and at that hui, Erina was there, and also Maureen came, and just a reminder that she did offer us some funding. So Tracy, oh my gosh, I'm back in the day. So Tracy did, I am, aren't I? Yeah, that's why. So Tracy came, and she did offer us some community funding. Just a little reminder.
I wonder, I know there might be some questions. I just want to reiterate too that some of the information may be held within council as well. So it would be great to really understand that information and data prior to the engagement, but doing that as part of our overall review. There's just one more slide, so let's do that, and which is the here we go. This is the last piece of the project plan that we have to date. So also recognising that this is new and we are in month 2 and things may change, but this is where we are at the moment and are rolling this out. And you can see there the timeline. Proposed initiative infrastructure is stage 5 with the plan development at stage 6. And the engagement with the council, we hope to that to be part of the governance body, so you'll be all well informed and be more than happy to come and talk throughout the project plan to provide you with updates and answer questions along the way. But us for now, but I'm happy to take questions specific to the project plan.
I guess. Your council awards, you can go first.
Thank you, Chair Alison. I do have a couple of questions, but some of which you've covered off. So thank you for clarifying the timeline here. We've sat around the table here and wondered what was going on. So very pleased that you've put so much work into thinking of those milestones. So kia ora for that. A couple of things. I'm glad you reflected, Arahaina, on the fact that there's actually a whole lot of information out there already. And, you know, the lovely lady sitting beside you there, Cheryl, was intimately involved in a strategy we came up with for the first 1,000 days of, you know, so there's lots of strategies and lots of thinking already out there. And Mātua Paul, you reflected that, you know, there's already a heap of stuff there. It's pulling it all together to recognise, as you've rightfully said, where the gaps are. I appreciate there's a whole year ahead of us to get this over the line, as it were, although Ori here has pretty much said get it up to us and it'll be all go. But that's a long time while this community waits and watches its hospital, its health service providers currently, and the changes and the iterations that they will have to go through before we as a district and a community get some reflection on where this might lead us into the future. So I'm not sure you can reassure me of that. However, I am very mindful there's a lot of water will go under this bridge before all the work that you bring to fruition will come to us. So that's probably more a comment. The only other thing I wanted to say, if any of you follow LinkedIn, Ian Powell, who's a bit of a health commentator, reflected in a recent article on the importance of involving local government. And he was talking about the model that they're looking at there at the Kapiti Coast. So are you able to, other than a request for money, Cheryl, do you have any view yet, obviously early on in those milestones, as to how council can be involved and how they can support and provide oversight, whatever else? I mean, there's obviously been a lot of talking going on. Have you got a view as to what our role will be?
Yeah, 100%. So from the 5 seconds that I've been here, and I've met all of you by faces now, so but the really important part of this is around influence and advocate. And so the influence comes from the governance or the stakeholder relationship bodies, but the advocating is really important. And that comes down to each individual and the conversations that are had at community and whānau level to be able to ensure that we are hearing what needs to be heard in the delivery of this plan. Because if we don't get it, we're not going to get it right for your community.
And I think just that comment, Sharon, around the pūtea, around the money. Now that was significant at that hui because it was to be community led, you know, so that money was so significant because we were offers of iwi Māori Partnership Board support for that initiation. But it had been agreed at that hui that we wanted to start it off, the group had agreed they wanted to start it off from a community perspective first. So that's where that pūtea was offered, so that the community had the say first and foremost, you know. And so hence why when we held that meeting, that hui, that council were invited, you know, so you're there at the very beginning. Yeah, because we knew the significance of having our council on board.
Are there any other questions, councillors? Thank you, Councillor Gilmore.
Thanks, Chair Alison. Just when we're, I guess, looking at the consultation and to reiterate, I think a little bit of what Councillor Wards was saying, as a council, we're very, very keen to be involved in that. Are other groups like, you know, THG and other groups going to be involved right throughout? Yeah.
THG were also there at the initiation of the first hui with us. So we had Mark, who came down from Auckland. So he was at that first meeting as well, and he and I then went and met with Te Whatuora to take back what was said at that hui. So definitely have been part of that progress.
Thank you very much for that presentation. It's really good. It has been, sort of discussed quite at length around the table here about where we fit and what we can do to help advocate and enable, but also to be part of, because it is so vital to our communities. We've been struggling through our health system for quite some time now. And we know these things don't happen overnight. Nothing ever does when it's to do with bureaucracy and law. So thank you so much. Can we kind of set up some sort of a intermittent, regular sort of catch up? Perhaps we could
discuss that after, but I'll send you through my contact details and more than happy for you to share those with everybody.
I think I just want to end with just saying that it's significant that we use the right terminology here, that it's not us, it's we. So this is a community initiative. So we need to start thinking from a community perspective that this is about us, about our community, about our people, and change. Kia ora.
Thank you very much, Cheryl. That was great. Thanks very much. And thank you for your time. So now, our next item on the agenda is the Nainai. Come to the table now. Sorry that you've had to sit through so much, but the floor is yours now.
Technology first. Okay, well, thank you for the invitation. Good afternoon, and thank you for the invitation to talk about this, to talk about the track itself, the access that it gives, and also really the decision is just a little louder. Okay, thank you. The generous offer that someone's made of putting in a car park at the end of the track at no cost for Tararua District Council. First, a little bit about where we're talking about. Went one too far there. I'll get the hang of it. So the track has been put in from the end of Nainai Road, which is shown with the arrow there, just inland from Mangamairi, and gives access to the Tararua Range. That's a little bit more complicated, but that's the topographical map. And as of the last 3 months, the track is actually shown on the topographical. You can see the end of Nainai Road there down on the right. There's the track heading up, probably the first, that's on the topographical map. Those blue lines are a 1 kilometre grid. So it gives you an idea of the scale. So the first just over a kilometre of that track is on a paper road. It's called Nainai Road, and it continues up into the hills. It's one of those ones that's an absolutely ridiculous slope that couldn't possibly have ever been a road. But you do look back and see that it was put in at a time when people had come from the UK, and the idea of keeping access of some sort into the hills was in their heads. And you can see there also, once you get to the end of that, there's a whole stack of tracks that are either on Tararua Forest Park, administered by DOC, or on Hardings Park, which is administered by Palmerston North City Council. So everything from about one blue square across from the end of Nainai Road is actually managed and looked after by Palmerston North City Council, either on their own land or through an agreement with DOC, so I understand. So the only bit we're really talking about is that first bit and putting a car park at the end of the road. So just well here. Right, this presentation was put together by Tim Swale, who's from Pahiatua. So he's used the word we here. I'm actually from Palmerston North, part of the same tramping club. Tim is the president of the tramping club currently. So his comments were these. We promote ourselves as land of the ranges, therefore access to the ranges is important. It's the nearest access to Tararua Forest Park for most Tararua residents. The only other well-formed tracks that go into the Tararuas are south of Eketahuna, so to the southern end. Nainai Road gives extensive access to an extensive network of tracks in the Tararua Forest Park and on Palmerston North City Council land. If I just step back, you'll see there's something called the Otanani Loop track there. Further up, there's something called Toi track loop, which makes it a very long day from this end. And there's Aruwaru on the bottom left-hand corner there, which is the high point in that area. And another high point in there is Pukenainai. It's an excellent track, and it's been built and maintained by volunteers. There's some stunning views, which I'll show some of in a moment, across Tararua District Council, Tararua District, Manawatu, and on a good day, the Central Plateau Mountains. There's a well-formed track that leads to the Aruwaru High Point, which was once used as a signal station by Maori. The track, it's the only one-day crossing, unless you happen to be a trail runner, up the ranges. And it's a great leisure facility, as you'll see. So I'll just go through these fairly quickly. Oh, sorry, that's the track start. And that's just to say there is a sign there which shows things like experienced trampers only, although you'll see photos of a group of Pahiatua school kids going up there. But of course, they were supervised by David, who's the principal, and by Tim when they went up there. And it points out they have to stay on the track and all those sorts of things. So that's the start point, and I'll just go through these without a lot of comment. That's where it starts, and it goes through the Otanani stream first, which obviously, if it's in flood, is going to cause problems, but it's usually not. These waterfalls are sort of accessible on the relatively flat part of the land, which goes more alongside the farmland. Once you get up to the bush, it's a lot steeper and you need some fitness to get there. But this could be something that would be accessible by a lot of people to get through this area. You'll see in the report received on this a reference to retention structures. This is the sort of thing we're talking about. Some steps to stop so that when people are climbing the hill, they don't, in fact, end up turning it into a smooth slide of mud. And the rails obviously provide both stability to the land and for the people walking on it. It's just looking out on the way up. So these are some of the Palmerston North City Council signs up the top. And that's the turn off to Nainai Road, which is a total of 1.7 kilometres. First 300 metres or so is on dockland, and then it becomes on the paper road. Nainai. Out across the Tararua. Photos. These are things you can see from that Pukenainai peak. The Aruwaru trig, that's a bunch of people my age, shall we say, so a bunch of 70-year-olds or thereabouts, top there. And you can see, this wasn't quite a clear enough day, but you can see up to the Central Plateau Mountains there. Back on the farmland heading out. So just, so I don't want to make this too long, so I've just got a couple of final slides. So hopefully that gives you some idea of the sort of, I guess, the well-being asset. It's something that we have access to. The first 1.4 kilometres or something like that is on Nainai Road, which is therefore owned by Tararua District Council. The other 15 plus kilometres of tracks up there are maintained by someone else. and the Nainai Road one is being maintained by volunteers. So just about the car parking, there is no current safe off-road parking at the end of the road at the moment. So if you go up there in the winter, and I'm thinking particularly about July, August this year, if you think about it, there would have been almost nowhere where you could park an ordinary two-wheel drive car without either being on the road or in someone's driveway, because those are the firm bits. There's a bit of an implication in the report you've received that there is currently some safe parking, but it really was only for a four-wheel drive vehicle being used by the volunteers, so an agreement about a particular spot. And landowners do complain about vehicles that park, so they're not on the soft grass, so therefore they are in fact blocking either the road or driveways. The suggested car parking area is shown there. The top is a sort of aerial view that where Tararua District Council staff marked roughly where a car park might go. I've sort of photographed it down below. You can see it doesn't look bad. It's all nice and flat, but the moment when it gets wet, the moment you get off the road, well, unless you've got a four-wheel drive, you're going to get stuck. So creating a safe parking area involves scraping off the top surface surface material, and then spreading gravel over the surface. There is firm stones underneath, so it's not too major a job. Just some final comments. My hope is that you can see there addressing the well-being aspect of the track, which isn't talked about in the report. It's all about possible liability for future maintenance. The track does provide access to a large recreational area for which Tararua District Council has no maintenance responsibilities. Just to be clear, which again isn't very clear in the report, this is an offer to install a car park at no cost to Tararua District Council. It's actually Jeff Argyle, who's the son of Ian Argyle, who was instrumental in developing all the tracks that we showed you up there. Offered in January last year to create the car park. Despite Ian's death a few months later and a lot of delay, Jeff's generous offer is still open. There are a number of things on the report I could comment on, but just a couple of them. 4.1, it said something as though retaining structures somehow caused erosion. I really think they prevent erosion. The other thing is 7.1 and elsewhere that he talks about Nainai Track Group asking for approval for a 10-year maintenance agreement. What we actually simply asked is, could we please accept Jeff's offer to put in a free car park? And that was, so the idea of a maintenance agreement was definitely imposed by council. And I guess the last is just a plea to say, can you please let us do this? You can see there's a wonderful asset up there that can be accessed from this side. At the moment, it can be accessed from the other side of the ranges, so from the Manawatu, but it can't be accessed from this side of the ranges easily. It is steep, but the structures that have been created seem to have created a stable track that isn't slipping away. And we hope you can approve the idea of putting in a car park and hopefully continue to work together on this council with the volunteers, so we can keep it open for the community in the future.
Thank you for that. Are there any questions from councillors? Councillor Johns?
Chair Ellison, roughly how long does it take to walk from Nainai, well, one end to the other?
Right across. Right. So it takes about an hour to get up to the dockland, assuming you're reasonably fit to go up the hill. Yeah. And I've been right across in about 4 hours. It's only quarter 4 or 5 hours. Stop for a lunch break. So it's a pleasant day walk, but of course you have to arrange transport like really. And I've had my wife drop me off. I happen to live on Kahuta Road on the other side, so I've had my wife drop me off in Nainai Road and then walk back.
I asked you what the other road was, but I don't know.
So it's the area that Palmerston North have developed as an outdoor recreation area, which is why all those tracks exist. There's also a mountain bike track sorts of things there.
Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for that. Are the adjacent landowners agreeable to the car park?
I honestly don't know. I've been working with Colin Yong, there had been some disagreements early on with the local landowners. So there has been some, I think, well, understandably, they can see lots of people going to the ground at the end of the road, which they would prefer not to have. Certainly, they have complained about people parking in the wrong place. So I would hope that by providing a car park, that they'll be happy with that. I haven't actually talked to them to say that was the case.
Right, yeah. And so what's the number of car parks? If you did this, how many vehicles would you get in there?
Suggestion is, after discussions with the Tararua District Council, something that takes perhaps 4 cars. I mean, like our tramping club has a little van, 12-seater, so perhaps that and 2 or 3 other cars. So roughly 15 metres by 6 metres was the sort of size that was being, it's that area that I photographed is really that sort of area.
It will be adequate in the correct number.
It'll be a lot better than it was now. Certainly for our sort of tramping club trips and things, it would work well because that's the sort of size we are. But obviously, we're going to take a bus up there that might organise some very large event. It wouldn't be adequate, but it's certainly make a very big difference.
And the last question is there a sign there to say car park?
No, because there is no car park.
But they've been parking there.
You're trying to park on the side of the road. If it's dry enough, you can park on that grass area. I said it's times when it's wet that I find I've parked up there sort of with one wheel on the road just because that's the only way I can be sure of getting out.
Yep. Thank you.
Councillor Johns.
Through you, Chair Early. In that, can you go back to the aerial photo of the farmyards where you had the
Square around it.
square around it?
Yeah.
So I take it that the paper road continues on through the farmyard there.
Veers a little to the left to drop down into the stream, so you can see the road goes into that area, and I photographed through under those trees. At the end of the road,
across to the left, does it?
Swings to the left of it at the end of the road to drop down into the stream.
Right, so the farmer's quite happy with increased activity around this place there, do you think? Probably not.
Yeah, I don't know. So that's, yeah.
Could be an issue.
It could, yes. Although I do think that I think that Tararua District Council have talked to the local, talked about this idea of a car park. Certainly I put a couple of pegs in at one stage just to indicate, we can actually see one in that lower photo to indicate where it might go. So hopefully they're not unaware that this is happening.
Can I suggest that, Colin, would you like to, is there anything you'd like to add?
Going to talk to the report.
Okay, cool. Okay, so we'll leave it there now and we'll move on to the report. We had 3 recommendations in that report. I take it the report has been read. Are there any supplementary questions to the report?
I think we'd like to hear from Colin, Chair.
Thanks, Colin. Received.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for your time today. We were going to look to treat the report as read, but also we actually could be better to actually give you some insights and just to give you an opportunity to drill into some areas if you so wished. It was a really good presentation there from the group there to obviously help scene set the direction. Joining me today is Jess, you'll know from our legal team, so that obviously you can ask anything around paper roads, and any questions you may have there around development of paper roads, etc. So in part I'll treat it as read, and in part I'll treat it as just to set some scene as well. And obviously if you've got any questions about specific areas of the paper, I'd be happy to take those as well. So the reasons for the report, which is part 2 of the overall report, to provide an update to the council regarding Nainai Track and considerations around inherited liabilities. That'll be predominantly around the paper road and works that are already taking place. Council has been approached by Nainai Group seeking to have a car park constructed at the end of Nainai Road for track users to park in, and I can also touch on some of the farmer conversations that have historically taken place if you'd like us to. Council does not have Nainai Track within its destination management plan, or so you would know it, visitor and walking cycle strategy. Staff are seeking council consideration for approving or not approving these requests, including the costs of future track maintenance. So in part, the paper has been written for you around the track, the paper road, the maintenance, and the potential liabilities that you need to be aware of that have been created through that development of a paper road. And separately, the car park request, as noted by our speakers, of 4 spaces to be in a designated area. Around that, obviously the maintenance and an agreement, and going into an agreement with an entity, a business, not an individual. We have suggested for a period of 10 years of that maintenance, noting that council past that 10 years would be liable for all future maintenance if that agreement was entered into. So jumping to point 6, I will treat all other areas read through from point 2. Assessment options. To ensure safety of Nainai Track, the following options have been identified. Maintain existing structures on the track, but refrain from adding any new infrastructure. Enter into a separate track maintenance agreement is a possibility with a legal entity. It is worth noting that on the slides there was a note around the group maintaining the track. You will have noted earlier in the report that the request of the group was noted as to stop maintaining the track until a decision had been made. Request all structures are removed from the track is also an option, returning it to a route rather than a track, which potentially reduces the council's liabilities, construction of on a paper road as well, to be talked to by Jess. Do you want to touch on that now?
Essentially, council's not obliged to form, it's under no obligation to form an unformed road. But the moment that we do have liability to maintain it and make sure it's safe for the users of that road. So that's the kind of,
balance that we're trying to tease out, I guess, with you guys, what your appetite is around that.
And a separate point around the car park. We could enter into a build and maintenance agreement with a legal entity for the construction and maintenance of a car park for a period of 10 years from date of completion. You will note within the report that the level of construction is to a Tower Alliance approved level rather than just scraping off the land. Allocate the required budget for council to assume the maintenance and obligations should we wish to, following expiry of any agreement for that council car park, or that car park, should I say. Or do not approve a car park. Works continues with regards to the allocated space, which is one between the entrance ways to the walkway and the farmers' yards, further at the very end of the gravel road, where the paper road then begins non-formed. And also, as noted by the group, 2 wheels on, 2 wheels off on the grass, should it be allowed for wind conditions. Additionally, we have noted on point 6.2 the placement of a sign that flags the safety levels and the grading levels for that. It is a very steep grade to get up to that beautiful view at the top. I was the council staff member noted in the report that completed that walk in October. I can attest to the grade. It is very manageable though. So the sign that you have noted there is not a council approved or placed sign. We still don't know who has placed that, but at the end of the day, if we're going to, we would need to replace it.
So the conclusions are as stated there. I'm not looking to touch in detail any more on the report, but I would welcome your questions.
Councillor Johns.
For you, Chair Alison. Thanks, Colin. Being an ex-tramper from way back, I think it's an excellent idea. And I would move the recommendation as it stands. Sorry. It's all part of our walking, cycling, attracting tourism. You can put it under whatever heading you like, but I think it's an excellent idea and we should do more of these things.
Councillor Sutherland, you had a question?
Thanks, Chair Ali. This issue's been before us a few times now, a number of times, and it's just a bit disappointing to me that we take a step forward and a step back, and there's acrimony and disagreement between a number of parties, including the council, landowners, the tramping clubs, and various other people. But I think we need to reach a reasonable resolution. Peter's touched on that. To me, I think the recommendation's fine. The issue about ongoing track maintenance after 10 years expired, I think we could probably put $1 each way on that. We could actually say that issue of maintenance will be reconsider the expiration of 10 years and not make a decision that it'll be our problem to fund it. I think safety, I mean, there's some discussions, some agreement about whether we should rip stuff down that the tramping clubs have put up on the tracks or leave it alone. It would seem me crazy to rip stuff down. But let's put a sign up that's putting all the risk on the trampers and the users of the track, just to cover health and safety concerns. Always a bit of risk with that, but this is a risky thing. Tramping and outdoor is risk. And if we can cover our council's risk reasonably, I think it would be good to tick this off. And to me, I think it's a good thing to do. We just need, let's push the 10-year maintenance thing. At this stage, there's no cost to us. That's okay. Let's, in 10 years' time, let's make a note in the minutes now. We're not promising to reconsider with the entity, whoever it might be. The entity we're going to go into bat with now, there's possibly be 2 tramping clubs, perhaps, a committee involving both Palmerston North and Tararua. I know by Tour on Track weren't really in favour of this last time we had it. They were chucked it out for some reason. But I think a reasonable result could keep things going. I'm not sure the farmers got quite offside with all this, didn't they? With parking and some misuse of their land and lambing. That was a bit of an issue, wasn't it? And I think perhaps some signs around that or some. I just do remember last time the farmers were a bit annoyed about that, wasn't it? Lambing and calving. Perhaps if we can mitigate that somehow. But I think we should do something and get on with it, and hopefully, hopefully reasonable people will deal with the farmers properly. We will cover our obligations, our risks reasonably well, and pick it off.
Thank you, Councillor Sutherland. I'd just like to clarify the Pahia Tour on Track situation. Basically, they came to council initially and then council said it really needed to go to Pahia Tour on Track. Pahia Tour on Track felt it wasn't really in their organisation's best interest to become involved in something that could carry some sort of liability. So that's why they turned it down. Jessie.
Yeah, I guess in terms of our liability going forward, we do have, we can't limit our liability in terms of people's use of the roads. We can provide safety signage. I think there would be a real good case for continuing the maintenance on the track to a level so that there isn't an increased risk. It is relatively basic in terms of the formation of the track. It's not, you know, we haven't. I don't know how to explain. It's not huge amounts of improvements, but you know, if there are handrails and things that people are using, there's a risk there. We need to keep the maintenance up to date.
So at the moment, the maintenance, obviously, unless the group told me otherwise, has paused, and it's been paused for a while. When I was up there for the second time, that isn't noted in this report, but for transparency, I was up there at the end of 2022 as well. The maintenance had ceased, apart from some additions, I presume, in the nod to Ian of his passing. But other than that, sort of down on the paper road at the very flat part, the track had started to slip away into the river in those areas. But the upper parts of the track hadn't actually had any additional maintenance, but the materials were still there. It is a steep gradient, and it is noted within the material and within the comments of the presentation that nature, trees, shrubberies, etc., weren't to be removed, and they have been as part of the construction. And so you do have bare open land exposed, and it is a steep gradient. So maintenance is going to be an ongoing, and your health and safety risk and liability, if I'm correct, Jess, will be there in perpetuity. You need to be aware that obviously that's there for you to consider as part of this discussion.
Which is the reason we suggested the 10 years maintenance and entering into a maintenance agreement with the group or an entity that they can establish. Yeah, and yeah.
Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Gilmore.
Thanks, Chair Ellison, and thanks very much for all of the info, guys. I'm in agreement with Councillor Carey with the 10-year period, and I wonder if we could achieve your outcome and also let it carry on by perhaps entering into a maintenance agreement with a review in 10 years, hopefully with the view that if things are working, they just carry on as status quo. What I'd hate is if we have a group that's willing to continue maintaining it, that we end up with the 10-year period and then we just have to take over responsibility. The other part, just looking at the risk side, if we form a road, and it's more just I guess a quick question, if we were to do so, and let's say if maintenance was to slip and drop away, we would have the ability to unform the road, wouldn't we? So we could actually revert it back. So let's just say, as an example, we decided to do it. We found that there were different risks, different problems eventuated, or we had a group that decided that they didn't want to continue maintaining it. We could then, as a council, go, do we want to continue maintaining it, or do we want to revert it? That would be an option to reduce some of that risk for us.
Talking, you can add. Yes, you could in the future, if that was the case, reduce your risk. As noted within the report, you could look to reduce it from a track to a route, and then that will be taking it back with all man-made structures being removed at someone's cost, and take it back. But obviously the development, and that's where I'm touching and looking at Jess, of a paper road would still have taken place. So there's still some inherent liability.
Councillor Peter.
Thanks, Chair Bailey. The maintenance of the track is not really an issue, I don't believe. We're being asked in this recommendation to put in a car park, full stop. Nothing about maintaining the track. The track has been used for probably 100 years now, or over that. I don't see any need to change it. The last thing, being an ex-tramper, the last thing you want to see are AA signs and steps every 5 metres saying track, go left, you know, you are now entering and so on. That's anathema to a tramper. Just leave it alone. We'll put it in a car park. And that's all we're being asked to do.
Councillor Steve.
Yeah, I through you, Chair Ellison. There's lots of these places all across our land of ranges. So if we, I just want to clarify, because costs in my back of my head, that's why we sit around the table here to limit costs to our rate pass, right? And not be a killjoy, right? We want you to tramp, but there must be these everywhere. From my understanding of this, we can't just put a car park in because it's got to be under legal commitment because of the Taurua thing, so you can't just scrape it off. with great intention, you know, and the other guy was, so if that guy was going to pay for a Taurua district standard car park, fine. But then if we change it from a track to a route, because have we got the same legal liability in every place we go in the Ruahine Ranges or the Tauraruas?
This is a paper road, so it's a road that we own. I think that's the distinction. Yeah, that's our property. So if we are forming it, then we, yeah, we've.
So do you own the one in Mawson too? The paper road thing?
I would assume that, yeah, we would own the paper roads in the district.
Oh.
Yeah. We do have thousands of them.
So supplementary, so is there any legal way, so these guys we can appease these guys and not cause us a liability of money in the long term? That's basically what it comes down to.
That's what we're trying to achieve around building in the 10-year maintenance agreement. Obviously, it's a volunteer group, so we understand that it's a big ask for the same individuals to be involved for that period, which is why we've leaned towards putting in place an entity that we could have an agreement with. It's to protect us, it's to protect everyone, which is why we proposed. Yeah.
Which we are right for.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jess. We have a recommendation on the table. First of all, I'd like to move that the report be received. Seconded by Councillor Gilmore. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. The second recommendation, 1.2, is that council consider the current track obligations and conditions associated with paper roads, which we've just had a conversation about. Now I have a proposal for a changed recommendation at 1.3, and that is that council approve the request of the Nainai Track Group for the construction of a car park built to the required specifications of Tauranga District Council. Do I have a seconder for that? Who moved? Hang on, I need a mover first. Steve will move it. Seconded, Councillor Long. Thank you very much. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against?
How does it differ from public record?
It's taken out all the proposed maintenance agreement part of it. It's removed all that. This is replacing 1.3.
Taking up the maintenance.
Yep.
Are you going to do another recommendation?
There is a 1.4 recommendation. I just wanted to get, do we pass that one first or do we need to?
I thought I moved the recommendation as it was, 1.3, seconded by.
This is in replace of that.
Isn't it appropriate to put the motion?
Been put on the spot here. See, Brian, any advice?
I can provide some advice on the situation. You have a motion that's been moved and seconded. One option is to move an amendment to that motion. However, if the proposed amendment is too far off the track, then pretty much, then wouldn't really fit the requirements of being an amendment. So you could either put the original onto the vote, and if it's lost, there could be something else moved, or you could seek the agreement of the mover and seconder to replace the wording for 1.3 with the new proposed wording in its place.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I think it would be quite helpful in this situation if we are going to look at putting that motion in, and for us to decide whether that motion's passed or lost, is if you'd be willing to foreshadow your motion that you would be making instead. So that would allow us to make a decision of whether we pass Councillor Johns' motion or whether we choose to go with your motion. Councillor Johns at that point might actually be willing to withdraw his motion, so that might be an easy way to proceed.
Councillor Johns?
Yes, I had no idea that you had a prior written alternative recommendation that it's not in front of me. I'm quite happy to withdraw my motion and allow, if I'm can you just read it out again? That we built car parks.
There's two parts to this. So part one is that council approves the request from Nainai Track Group for the construction of a car park built to the required specifications of Tara District Council. And the second part to that is that council approve entering into an agreement regarding ongoing maintenance with the legal entity. So that's the two parts to it.
Withdraw and supplant with it.
So do I need a mover and seconder for those now, don't I?
You just did it.
Scott and Steve, so. Okay, so I'll put the motion, the new motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Colin, you look.
Sorry, I was just seeking clarification. That's the approved maintenance or is for the car park. Is there any discussion or maintenance required as an agreement for the track? For the group to continue and start work again in their usual way?
Is everybody in favour of that? Yep. Yes, thank you, Colin. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just one.
Councillor Steve?
Just clarifying in my head, we're not going to get in the gun if these guys break their leg on their unmaintained track.
I'm not a lawyer, so the lawyer's just left the room, but you have developed a paper road. So you put a track on the paper road. So the track's not on the car park is on the gravel formed road. The track is on the unformed paper road, and I know I'm stepping into a legal land, but you have development on that land. And so if someone was to have an accident and they fell, health and safety that has been brought up in the discussion here would fall.
That's rubbish, surely.
Councillor Johns?
I believe for a minute that council could be held liable if somebody slips over and breaks their knee on one of our paper roads. And we've got thousands of them around the district. It's utter nonsense.
See, Brian, could you perhaps help here? Help.
I mean, as Jess said, we've got thousands of paper roads that people can freely walk on them at any time, including farmers and people that use those for whatever purpose. There wouldn't be any liability issues if they were to fall and hurt themselves. I think when you're talking about development, you're talking about if we develop the car park.
If you add structures to a paper road, so your culverts, your handrails, your steps.
And has that been done though?
But by who? By the farmer?
No, by these guys.
We don't know.
You just saw a report on something of it.
No, it's not your culverts.
I think we're sort of pushing the boundaries a little bit. If someone was to fall over and hurt themselves on one of those structures, I mean, then we'd have to do health and safety audits over 1,000 paper roads, which I think would be unreasonable to expect that councils would be doing thousands of audits and then have to do those on a regular basis. But to avoid any doubt, we'll get some advice on that from a health and safety expert, but I see it as highly unlikely.
Thank you. See, Brian, I think the warning sign is absolutely imperative. And I think that's something that as long as the hazards are pointed out, surely then that becomes personal responsibility. Councillor Scott.
Thanks, Chair Ellison. Just a really quick comment is because we are just looking at the car park with this, our liability hasn't changed at all from what it was before a car park was being put in. So that could be a further discussion down the track following advice from the CE if it was so needed. But yeah, for this year, I think the recommendations that we were looking at were focused on the car park, and we've duly moved that and made a decision on it.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Any further discussion? There being none, I will end this report. We've passed all those, haven't we? Yep. Thank you. And thank you very much for your presentation. And I assume Tim's still swanning off around the world somewhere. I know, he called me. Thank you very much. Oh, Kate, you've been so patient sitting down the back there. Thank you so much for being so tolerant of those long-winded. Yeah, Kate's report.
My friend.
You're a brave man, Steve.
I want to say.
Right, the floor is yours, Kate. Welcome.
Thank you. On behalf of the board, Jared, our chairman, is apologies as he is currently overseas as it's school holidays. So it's just me presenting today. Also bear with as this is first time doing it. So yeah, unsure on the exact process. But firstly, on behalf of the board, we would just like to say thank you very much for the support that the council have provided with us with the yearly grant to help our operational costs. So I'm just going to highlight some points with our three main contracted outcomes. So our three main contracted outcomes are maximising the number of sporting and non-sporting and community activities at Bush Multisport. The second is maintaining and enhancing Bush Multisport facilities. And the third, ensuring Bush Multi is in a financially sustainable organisation. So just to go over some highlights for maximising the sporting numbers and non-sporting numbers. So we had two major days. So we had our minor sports and our children's day, both two big events that are run yearly. Then we had the Colour Run, which was a new event that came to the facilities last year. And then Taranga Kapahaka Group, they performed at Nationals and they used our facilities to train over 6 different weekends. And then in terms of maintaining and enhancing the facilities, at the start of this year, we got the final grant to upgrade the remainder of our playing fields. So now all of our playing fields, the lighting has been upgraded to LED and we can now play 2 rugby games, a senior football game, 2 junior football games and a senior hockey game all at one time, with all the lights going. So it's quite amazing to see now. We had some alarms replaced in the stadium and then we also had the security camera installed. We had some extra ones put in the grandstand and also over at the turf. Mainly the grandstand ones were more for any sort of vandalism that occurs, people going into the toilets, and then the turf is just to support more of the entryway to get more coverage there. Then for our final point, ensuring we're sustainable in the future. So the trust received a $20,000 donation for a dividing curtain to be going forward. That is one of our future projects that we're in the process of working with that now. And then we received over $300,000 in grants, sponsorship and donations in the year. Our future projects for the remainder of this year and next year is the insulation in the stadium, which is currently being worked on. We have a date in December for that to be installed. And then we're also looking at possibly getting heating in the stadium, as well as the dividing curtain for the stadium as one of our future projects. And that is the main highlights.
Thank you, Kate. the one thing that really highlighted for me reading the report was so amazing to see the number of grants that were applied for, and everything was, we need this, it costs that much, this is who funded it. And it certainly demonstrates the faith that these funders have and the ability for Bush Multisport Trust to do great things for our community. So in that respect alone, in this report is really outstanding. So thank you. Are there any questions of Kate? Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Chair Ellie. It's all right. Anything that starts with W, I'll answer to at the moment. Thank you, Kate, and don't be too nervous sitting there. It's a pretty cool position that you're in. A couple of things, and perhaps not appropriate for me to ask you, because strategically, I'm curious to understand, has there been any thought into the future that an organisation like Bush Aquatic Trust might come under the Bush Multisport entity? Has there been any discussion at a strategic level for those two very, very dynamic, innovative organisations to actually be together?
I can't say yes because I haven't been privy to these conversations, but the conversations that I have been a part of, that was had with Sport Manawatu and then the Bush Aquatics Trust and Sport New Zealand that we had last week, it was stated there that it will be a separate identity, but other than that.
Secondary question, Chair Ellison. I note in your in the paragraph around the trust and operational staff, it reflects here the facility manager will report to Brad Cassidy. Yes. Rather than who was it previously? What was the?
So Sport Manawatu are currently in a restructure. So since this report was done, that has changed. So not a restructure, refocus. So currently I I am still reporting to Brad at Sport Manawatu, but I report to the trust. Yes.
So I'm not that statement is here, I would have thought, but happy to have your explanation of that one. But thank you for giving those questions a go for me.
Thanks, Kate. Thank you, Councillor Wards. Any other questions? There being none, could somebody please move? Happy to, thank you. Councillor Johns would like to move the report be received. Do we have a seconder? Erin, thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you, and I'm sorry you had to wait so long. We need to send out a timetable next time. That'll teach you for going away and having such a wonderful time in the States.
You would have worked for that though.
Oh, yes.
Well done.
Yeah. Thanks, Kate. Finally got to the management report, Mike. Brian, your management report? Your management.
I'm looking at management.
He's coming up.
Thank you, Chair Ellison. Does have my name on it but to be fair, the manager of the report is the senior officer to your left, that no doubt will speak to the report, but I'm here to assist should I need to.
Brian, it is a bit weird you sitting there and I'm here. But look, I will take the report as read. I do think it's quite comprehensive and does outline a lot of the activities that the various teams have been doing since we met last 2 months ago. And I've asked Andy to come back into the room in case you had any queries around the facilities activities. But are there any comments or any?
Sorry, Councillor Johns.
Through you, Chair Ellie. 4.2.3, the community plans, is there a date for the Woodville community plan? We have a meeting tonight and that question may come up.
Thank you, Colin.
Thank you. So there are ongoing discussions, as Councillor Johns, I hope you're aware of, with regards to the AGM that's going to be taking place down at the community group that's going to precede any starting of any community plan work. Obviously, we're waiting for either the present or a new chair to be sworn in. Exactly, I know. So post all of that, then obviously, yes, we will look to move forward with a Woodville engagement. We are presently working on Ekatahuna's High Here Tours and Northwood still, and we have one staff member. So we are obviously unable to split them into quarters at the present time, but we are obviously in conversation with yourselves via Kimberley and via Adele through your committee.
Councillor Steve, did you have a question? Thank you.
Through you, Alison, Chair Alison. Just a quick one. We've got a lot of costs involved in cameras. I mean, we've got cameras for Africa. The question I'm leading to, any of this, I see the one good photo there of a wheelie, but different stuff. Have we got any claims going forward from any of the? Have we ever prosecuted anybody from So what I'm trying to say is investment in cameras are giving us a return, and less, yeah.
Councillor Johns, you wanted to say something? Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry, Brian.
Through you, Chair Alison. Yes, we quite often do get some successes with footage taken from various CCTV. Peter Wimsett does oversee that, so it's not Colin. Quite often, police will contact us and we will provide them footage. A lot of intel, offences, even now some of our internal offences where we've been broken into our facilities, we've had people picked up with that. But a big part of CCTV is hopefully the deterrent. So when people do know that CCTVs are in the area, they're less likely to commit offences. Offences still get committed, as you know, but it should also serve as a deterrent.
I think, interestingly enough, the Pahiatua Community Garden through Explore Pahiatua have just installed a camera because they had some vandalism in the gardens. So, and it's really well lit up too. So it hasn't happened again. So hopefully. Are there any further? Oh, Councillor Johns?
Thank you, Chair Ellie. 4.4.3 town signs. Woodville's signs. I keep getting asked by various members of the community what's happened to Woodville's. Every other town's got them, but not us. And I understand that I was told that the problem was that they had to be frangible. And if they are all our other signs in other towns frangible? If not, why not? As they say in Parliament.
Don't correct. This is something else.
Thank you, Councillor Johns. Look, we do apologise for the ongoing delays with this, but yes, where road signs are on a Wakakotahi road, their guidelines state that they do need to be frangible. We're still working on the solution with that, but we've just recently partnered with the PMO office to help us bring that project to fruition. And they're going to work on the technical requirements with Wakakotahi as well as the Tararua Alliance so that we can get some timely resolution to that. We're just in the throes of handing that project over to Mike's team, and we're grateful for his assistance. But that's all I can offer you at this stage. Apologies, Councillor Johns. I'm happy to come to the meeting tonight to speak to some of that if that's going to help.
Thanks, Bill. The other signage in the district, this new signage that's been put up, is that frangible?
We don't have a problem with our district signs, but all of the town signs have the same problem. And whilst we are only obligated to remedy the signs that are on Waka Kotahi roads, we understand the safety aspects for our rural roads as well. So we're looking to provide a solution that's going to span across all of them. It will come at a cost, so we do need to understand that and then fix them based on a priority basis.
Councillor Sutherland.
Thanks, Chair. Really, just a really comment. Really, I've just been browsing through all the inspection, building consents, and valuation stuff, and it's really noticeable on the substantial fall off on 21-22 year. I assume these statistics from 1st of July are probably only July and August. Yeah, so I've only calculated out of 2. So those trends, as they are trending significantly downward from end of June 23 as well. So that area of business, we talked about this during the LTP actually, but resource consents, limbs, building inspections and applications are right now significantly less than they were in 2022. So may affect our thinking with LTP a little bit, but anyway, just a.
You, Councillor Sutherland. Did you want to say something, Brian?
Yeah, just quickly. Yeah, you're right, Councillor Carey, that there is some downturn and that the team is still, really busy. Sometimes the number of consents doesn't necessarily translate to the complexity of them. Also, but one of the good things we do have is because we've got that largely the contracted model, any lessening of those consents or downturn in the consents will result in us just using those contractors less as well, which is obviously a good thing because it did come at a cost before. We do have one in-house building inspector now that hopefully, if it continues to trend like it is, should be able to pick up most consents himself.
Thank you for that, Brian. Councillor Gilmore.
Thanks, Chair Allison. Just a fairly quick one. First of all, just wanted to commend the team for taking the feedback on board that we've kind of been working through to improve this report, particularly adding the since the last meeting, the 1st of July statistics on there. I found that really, really helpful. So thank you. What I wanted to have a look at with that in mind is 5.4.2, which was illicit dumping. Jumped out at me quite significantly. The rural southern ward, just in the period since the last meeting, has had 10 instances, which was the entire amount for 12 months for the year prior. I know we may not have someone in here to be able to provide that level of detail, but at some point I'd be quite keen to find out what might be causing that, because it's quite a big jump. Exactly, yeah, where it's sort of, if that's okay.
But you can only say that we're going to say 3 places. So thank you. Any further questions? There being none, could somebody please move that the report be received? Thank you, Councillor Steve. Seconded, Councillor Peter Johns. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Beautiful. So then we move on to Mike. You're up.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, everyone. So here to present on the capital program report. I'd just like to know for this one in particular, I'd like to start looking at actually including some of our operational projects as well in here, because the office is actually targeted at doing all types of projects. So from here, just see a couple at the end of this report, as well as an example of a bit of a reporting format that I'll sort of go through further testing, adjusting of these report formats to everybody here, so we can have a look at what the printout is. Those ones there are from our project management software. So starting off, I'll take it as read. However, just I'd like to highlight a few pieces here. So this project and program report here does include facilities, regulatory, district support, promotion and economic development. And I have also included at this current stage the operational projects that we are currently also tracking, and that's seen in some of the graphs. This part here that we can see it's been actually done. I know that we've adopted the PAS strategy, which is highlighted under the schedule there. Earthquake strengthening projects, we do have adequate progress for the business case and feasibilities. And also a request there for the Carnegie project for a bit of a workshop with councils at some stage. That's time months. We are experiencing continued resource constraints across the organisation for these projects. I'm sure that everybody's been tracking the amount of people that we have to actually conduct some of these, but we are working to address those. So with that being said, is there any questions or?
Councillor Scott.
Thanks, Chair Ellison. Was just having a look just at the very last page and quite liked having those extra reports in there, those operational reports. Found that really, really cool. So this is on the digitisation of council records, so something I'm pretty interested in. I know it might be fairly early days in it, but just wondering, I guess, what is in scope for that project? So I note that the building iwi capacity has a whole lot of bullet points of what's in scope. If that's to be determined, totally cool, but really, really keen to see what might be in scope for this really exciting project for us.
Yes, for sure. I could search it up, and if you'd like, and I can give you an answer shortly. Or, but yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head the list that we had put forward, but I know that it was discussed earlier today, so it did include some of those that were mentioned this morning.
Thank you, Mike. I've got a question, if that's okay. With the earthquake strengthening and the new roof at the service centre in Pahiatua, I've been and had a look and it looks great. The chairs look a bit shoddy now, though everything else looks so smart. However, the one question I have is, what happened with the heat pumps? Because all we've got is those little tiny fan heaters, and we've got a meeting there tomorrow night and it's freezing. Weren't there meant to be 2 installed in the service centre?
Yeah, get based. I think.
Okay. Any further discussion, questions on this report? Shall we go ahead with?
I do know that. So for the Pahiatua Service Centre, I was expecting, apologies, I was expecting them to step through the sheets. The Pahiatua Service Centre is been conducted by Dave. He has got a couple of extra jobs to finish closing out there. The heat pumps to be reinstated. I know that he is working on that, so that is currently underway, but it's just going to be brought in. Cool, but that's it. What he left it with me is just working on the last parts of the consent and getting everything else signed off. Building capacity with iwi, so I think there was no current questions on that, but our MIs have been sorted with those ones. So, and if you guys are happy with the board layout for that, if there's anything else that would like to be included or looked at, I can investigate that. But I think that one there is quite self-explanatory at this current stage. And introduction of these services. So currently we've had a bit of an improvement. We've had the approval for the inclusion and scope of the e-service part for looking into public accessible digital records, which being a self-service approach, Dannevirke newspaper, art, microfilm archives, cemetery management, online community heritage database, online dog registration, complaints online, ideas online, online payments, and also booking of facilities is currently within the agreed on scope at this current stage. Further. It does require a couple of extra stages, so do need to conduct a bit of a market test and approach the market. And then from there, we'll have a look at better costings for it, because the part of this that it does need to include is the ability for us to, currently we're doing the digitisation of our historic records. So we need to make sure that whatever solution that we do go with has the ability to also include that portion, then be made available online as well. So
thanks, appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike. Are there any other questions of Mike? Kerry, Councillor Kerry.
Yeah, I was just going to comment on just the same as Councillor Scott. Really, Mike, I think it's excellent the way you started to represent to this meeting those projects. Really good. So I think you've sort of heading down the direction we're all been pretty happy with going, and that's great. Very clear and it's transparent to us, and that we can see progress.
Thank you, councillor Sutherland. Are there any other questions at all? There being none, could somebody please move the report be received? Thank you, councillor Wards. Seconded, councillor Wallace. I got them round the right way. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. That concludes the meeting. Thank you, Mike. Oh, we're going to go public excluded. I forgot about that. Sorry. Councillor Scott has moved. We move into public excluded. Thank you, Naoma. Ever please say aye.
Aye.